Welcome back to Stooge Stream. I'm your host, the Stooge, and this is It Worth Playing? In this episode, we're going to look at Bucky O'Hare, the arcade game. We're going to pull it apart, put it back together, and have a look and see, is it worth playing? Most people have forgotten that there was actually a Bucky O'Hare arcade game, unlike its NES counterpart that gets a lot of attention these days as it is a classic on the system, a rarity, and a Mega Man style platformer. This didn't get a lot of fanfare in the arcade back in 1992 when Konami released it. This is more of a walk around beat 'em up / shooter because you've got a gun, and it has some shoot 'em up, shmup style Gradius levels thrown in just to mix it up. It's completely different from the NES game in every imaginable possible way. So let's have a look at it. This came either in a 2 or a 4 player arcade cab, much like the X-Men game of the time and the Ninja Turtles arcade games. It was based on the 90s cartoon series Bucky O'Hare, and the cut sequences actually had voice acting from the people that did the characters in the cartoon series, which was very cool and revolutionary for its time. The cut sequences are fantastically animated and look amazing, especially for an arcade game from 1992. Speaking of, let's just break down the visual style immediately. For a game from that period, this looks fantastic. The sprites are big, bright, colorful, the backgrounds scroll really nicely. Everything in this game is so bright and colorful. I don't know why we kind of overlooked this in arcades back in the day. I remember seeing this once or twice in arcades, and you'd be there with a couple of your buddies and you'd see the 4-player cabinet and you're like, that looks cool. Let's go play the 4-player X-Men or Ninja Turtles game instead. I have no idea why. This just was not a popular game. But just on the visual style itself, it should have been. This was bright and colorful and beautiful. It was very cartoony. But then again, it's based off a cartoon, so you'd have to expect that. The cut sequences, like I said, are beautifully animated for an arcade machine, and something worth seeing just on their own. Let's have a quick chat about the actual sound. It has a nice soundtrack that runs in the background, nothing overwhelming. I believe some of it comes from the actual animated series. I can't be sure, I never saw it, but all in all, the soundtrack is nice. It's not distracting. It blends in quite nicely. The sound effects, on the other hand, the laser shots, the punch effects, the noises, all of that type of thing, is really good. The voice acting is really crisp and clear and sounds amazing. It's not like some of the early arcade games where you can basically not hang out on the phone anymore. No, it's really nice. It's really well done. A lot of effort was put into the actual sound of this game to make sure that it fit in with the style of the game and worked really well. I was quite actually pleasantly surprised that at no point during the game did I hear anything that I was like, ooh, that's really out of place, or that sounds quite nasty, or that didn't work with the sound chip. No, everything was taken into account for, and it turned out really nice, just like graphics. The bright, beautiful, big sprites. The sounds are bright, big, huge sounding things. It all just works. It all works. Onto the controls. The controls are really smooth. You can shoot in 4 directions, up, down, left, right. You can move in 8 directions. If you get close enough to an enemy, you can punch them. So, you know, if you're standing right in front of them instead of shooting, he'll punch, which is much more effective. You've got a jump, a shoot, and a bomb button. Very simple setup, and it all works really well. Everything runs smoothly, and it's quick too. It's not a slow game by any means. You can run around the screen quite quickly. The enemies pop quite quickly. There's no slowdown in the game at all. There's a great pattern to the game as well. Quite nice, deep, long levels that lead to a boss fight. Well, long for arcade. And the bosses have very kind of console-y patterns you can learn. So once you learn the boss's pattern, the boss becomes the easiest part of the level because you know exactly what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, and how to beat them. But it's still a lot of fun, and considering this is an arcade game, it's more about the experience of playing the game, and usually these things try and eat your money, whereas this really doesn't. And because of the great controls, once you learn the patterns, it's quite easy to like jump around and do everything and so on. So the game itself isn't actually overly difficult, even in single player mode. It's not a game that's going to suck $100 out of you. You can probably finish it with a, depends if it's a quarter game or, 25 cents or a 50-cent game or a dollar play, whatever it is. 10 credits, you can probably finish this game. I think where the game really excels though is when you have 2 to 4 players and a few of your friends jumping in, and it's chaos and madness on screen and characters everywhere and explosions, and it's a really good time, especially if you can get this on free play somewhere in an arcade, or of course the ugly E-word emulation. Grab a couple of friends and a couple of controllers and you will just have a great afternoon. It's not a game that's going to take hours and hours and hours to complete. You'll probably get it finished in 35 minutes, 45 minutes tops, depending on how long you take to kill all the enemies or the boss battles. Once you figure out their patterns, they're quite quick. All in all though, this is one that we probably shouldn't have overlooked and really shouldn't be as overshadowed as it is by its NES counterpart. Everybody's heard of the NES game now due to the fact that people like the Game Chasers, I think Metal Jesus, and a few other people have highlighted the game over the past couple of years and spoke about it quite fondly. It's become a lot more of a rarity and quite an expensive title in the NES library. But for some reason, nobody ever talks about the arcade game. I barely even remembered that it existed until I saw it again. I don't remember anybody speaking about it, and it is a really great beat 'em up with a difference because you've got a gun and so forth and shoot, and the added in shmup levels actually give it a lot of variety. Having 4-player co-op is great. Getting 3 of your friends next to you to talk trash and have fun while you're playing, and you suck because you keep dying, and it's a great time for everyone. Why this just isn't brought up anymore, I have no idea. I really think this is a game that not only should we be talking about, but we should be playing a lot more too. The 4 playable characters are all quite unique. They all control pretty much the same, but you've got Bucky, Jenny, Deadeye Duck, and Blinky. They all look very different. Their supers are different. Again, they control pretty much the same, but the fact that they all look very different, you can pick a favorite character and have somebody that you want to be each time. Again, I really like this game. I finished it again recently. I really think it's one that you should go back and have another look at. Bucky O'Hare, the arcade game, definitely worth a second chance. I'm going to leave it there, and in the meantime, I'm going to have a couple of minutes of the game running in the background without me talking, so you can actually hear what it sounds like and see what it plays like uninterrupted. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, like, share, subscribe, and all those cool things. It really helps us out a lot.
I'll skin your hides, filthy mammals!
Wow, take a look out there! That's a climate converter! Oh no, they're forcing the slaves to build one here too!
They've gone too far. No fly-sucking, slimy, croaking piece of sludge toad is taking over Planet Punk. Matey, here's what we gotta do, and we gotta do it fast.